All right, this is part two of the argument and persuasion notes. So we left off talking about appeals. So we had three types of appeals: the appeal to logic or logos, that's where you're appealing to facts, figures, information; appeals to emotions or pathos, where you're appealing to feelings like sympathy, empathy, etc., or appeals to ethics or ethos, where you're appealing to the credibility of the people involved in your arguments, or sometimes the speakers or presenters themselves. Now, we watched the ASPCA dog commercial at the end of part one, and really there's an example of all three of these that you can find in those. So, kind of going back to the video here.
A month. Only
So,
66 a
a
day.
number of things. Number
Will
one,
help
I would say
rest.
kind of appeal to ethos or credibility. You see a lot of the individuals who are caring for the dogs. They're in their kind of veterinarian uniforms, so kind of showing you it's not just some plain average person that are treating these dogs. It's actually certified, either like veterinarians or people that are equipped and certified to handle these dogs. So again, that goes to the
Seasonal
credibility of
music.
this
Provide
organization
medical
is
care.
legit. In other
Food.
words, it's
Shelter.
actual people that know what they're doing, that are paid professionals. It's not just some volunteers or something working with this. Along with that, the use of the celebrity endorsement is also kind of a appeal to credibility. You probably don't know Sarah McLachlan. She was kind of a pop singer in the late 90s, early 2000s, but of course, people old like me probably know who this person is. So again, that builds that credibility of I know this person. I've heard her music. I can trust her more than just an average person. There's also a lot of appeal to
Shelter.
logic as
A month.
well. So
Call or pay
anytime
online in
that
the
someone
next 30
breaks down,
minutes,
for
and you'll
only
receive this
so
welcome
many
kit with a
easy
photo of an animal.
monthly payments, or for only $5 a day, you can help these animals. That's an appeal to logic, because that's something where if they're saying how cheap it is, that really is appeals to our sense of logic and reason. Also, the free gifts. A lot of times, the free gifts are tied to an appeal to logic, where you're not just giving away your money, you're also getting something in return.
Kit
And
with a photo of an
obviously,
animal.
the obvious
Shelter
one would
right
be
now.
the appeal
One
to
who's been given a
emotions.
second
This is a very
chance.
emotional
Thanks to
commercial
you.
where you see sad little kitties with no legs or a missing leg. You see sad puppies, things like that. So that all would be appeals to emotion. So really, all three kind of are involved in that specific commercial. And really, yeah, I know it's a commercial and we're talking about videos, but when we're doing writing our speeches, it's really kind of the same concepts being used. In fact, we'll also be talking about how to use visual aids in your speeches. And a lot of times you'll be able to build these appeals into those visual aids that you choose for your speech. The next speaker we're going to see is the puppy mill speaker. So it's going to be an actual persuasive speech. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but while we're watching it, I want you to write down what you can find in your notebooks. These three things we're looking for. First of all, what the thesis of the speech is. Second of all, what's one good example of an appeal to reason, and one good example of appeal to emotion. So be on the lookout for that while you watch the video.
A cold, dark room. It smells disgusting. The creatures in front of you shake uncontrollably, packed one on top of another in tiny wire cages. To eat, they have only crumbs in front of them, and to drink, only a dirty bowl of water. Many have eye problems, ear problems, diseases, and infections. They've never been groomed, they've never been for a walk, and they've never seen the sun. For too many dogs across America, this is how life begins in a puppy mill. Puppy mills, as defined by the Humane Society of the United States, are mass dog breeding operations that take place in shockingly poor conditions. Puppy mill breeders produce puppies for profit, only for profit, with little or no concern for the physical, social, or emotional needs of the dogs. As a dog lover, I was shocked to discover the horrors of puppy mills across the country as I researched this speech. I know from my audience analysis questionnaires that most of you had a dog or another pet while you were growing up, and that you believe they should be treated humanely. Today, I'll show you that puppy mills are not treating animals humanely, and I'll suggest some ways of solving the problem. Puppy mills have been around for a long time, but they've grown dramatically in recent years. The Humane Society estimates that there are more than 10,000 puppy mills currently operating in the United States. According to Stephanie Shane, the Society's Director of Outreach for Companionable Animals, of the 7 to 9 million dogs sold in this country each year, 2 to 4 million come from puppy mills. That's double the number from only a decade ago. Rather than producing the healthy, happy pets that millions of families dream of, puppy mills produce dogs with canine herpes, respiratory infections, parasites, seizures, and E. coli. Dogs that are lucky enough to escape these diseases often have rotten teeth, missing eyes or limbs, hip disorders, skin problems, and a host of other deformities. In addition to suffering from physical problems, dogs in puppy mills are often emotionally unstable. Some are dangerously violent and aggressive. Others are apathetic and lack any desire to interact with people or animals. Because of the overcrowding in puppy mills, some animals literally go crazy and chew off the ears, legs, and tails of other dogs. But you can see for yourself what the dogs have to endure. Here's a picture of a puppy mill provided by the U.S. Humane Society. As you can see, the cages are stacked one on top of another, and the dogs are packed into the cages like sardines into a can. The dogs are not let out to go to the bathroom, so the cages are filled with waste and become breeding grounds for the diseases I mentioned earlier in my speech. You can get a better sense of how disgusting a puppy mill is from this photo, taken after the dogs were removed by animal officials. You can see how narrow the cages are and how they're crammed one against the other. You can see that there's filth and debris everywhere. Finally, take a look at a couple of individual dogs. The first one came from a puppy mill here in Wisconsin. It was so malnourished that it couldn't stand up by itself, and it had lost the fur on almost all of its body. The
I'm going to
next
move it
dog
ahead a little bit, and
was in
then
even worse shape.
watch just
Covered with
kind of
its
the
own
last
filth,
minute or
it
so
had a
as
rash
these
of
speakers
infections
doing
and
their
diseases.
conclusion.
The Humane Society has found that most dogs in pet stores actually come from puppy mills. And fourth, don't be fooled by advertising. Just because an ad promises that a dog has been, quote, family raised or has a health certificate doesn't mean it's true. This is especially important when it comes to the internet, where there's no way to verify the health of a dog or the trustworthiness of a breeder. In conclusion, I'd like you to imagine your own pet, no matter what kind of animal it might be, living in the conditions endured by dogs in puppy mills. Then imagine your pet living in those conditions day after day, week after week, month after month. Surely you would not want this for your own pet. Yet even as we sit here, millions of dogs are suffering from the horrors of puppy mills. It's time to stop puppy mill breeders from profiting on their cruelty. Even if, as the movie title says, all dogs go to heaven, we should not allow them to start their lives in hell.